Guys, today we're going to learn about entity framework. First, let me explain you what is entity framework. Entity framework basically is like a bridge pattern, or should I say an adapter or an interface for our application to interact with our database. So as you can see in this diagram, we have our application, the entity framework, and SQL server. Okay, so basically we need another object here. I think it's entity. The model itself is a in Java we call it how you say this is basically a pojo, a simple class with some properties which we map to our DB tables. So let's say we have an entity here. So this is our application, right? So instead of we basically use this as a middleman, this entity framework, so our application could interact with our DB, and this entity basically is a class that our application is use to map the DB tables to our model data, or basically our the model should I say basically the model or should I say data transfer object that we use in our application. Okay, so if I'm going to put a flow here, let me put some arrows so it will be clear for us. So basically our application will first will interact with the framework, then the framework will use an entity. Okay. So it's like something like this. Then our application can use this entity. That should be, let me draw another arrow here. It should be a double, something like this. And another arrow from framework to our. So as you can see, the application cannot directly interact with our DB, so we use our entity framework. I think we don't need this arrow. So basically, the framework provide some interface to our application where we can pass our entity. Yeah, so it should be something like this. So the entity framework is just a middleman. So our application and our database can communicate. Okay, and we use an object. This object is basically a simple class that our application use. This has equivalent mapping in database. Normally this is equivalent to DB table. Okay, so I think the easiest it would be easier if I show you how to do it in the code. Okay, let's open a Visual Studio. Let's create a new project. Let's choose the simple one, console application. Then next, press like test entity framework. Okay. So in this application, I'm going to show you how to create that database schema. Then second, I'm going to show you how to write data into the database. And third, I'm going to show you how to read data from DB. Okay, so first let's add the dependency. Actually, we need 3 dependencies for entity framework. So we can search. So we need the core, we need also the SQL server, since we're going to use SQL server as our database, and also we need the design. Core design. I think this one. Okay, so let's add those projects. Still adding. So while it's still adding, let's go to the, okay, we just need to accept. Okay, so while adding, let's go to the terminal. Let's go to the folder, test.ef folder, our application folder. CD, this one. Visual Studio project. CD test. Oh wait, I think it's related to other folder. CD project, CD test ef. Okay, the reason why I go to this folder, our application folder, is because I'm going to run some command to create our DB schema. But for us to be able to run this command, we need these three dependencies. Okay, so now let's create our model or the entity. Okay, let's create a class here. Create I think here we can create a new class. Add new class. Let's call it model. Okay, let me paste my code here. Basically this model will just let me copy paste first. Let's copy sorry, we need this using statements so we can use these objects. Okay, so let me explain this code. As I explained you a while ago, we need some entity, right? This entity is equivalent this is an object actually that we use when we are interacting with the entity framework. This is equivalent to DB table. So in our model, as you can see, I have here some objects like garden, bed, crop, and crop assignment. These are all classes, but I want to create tables equivalent to these classes. Okay, so as you can see inside, I also create a special class here, GardenContext, and I extend DbContext. This DbContext is basically this DbContext is provided by our EntityFramework Core, so that we can interact with our DB. So basically this is our entity framework here in the diagram, entity framework. So for us to use the entity framework, we have to extend this DbContext. Okay, then inside we will create some DbSet methods where we use our entity, these classes. As I said, these entities are equivalent to our DB tables. So later we will create tables with name gardens, bed, crops, and crop assignment. Let me show you our database. Currently this is our SQL Server database. Currently, as you can see, there is no garden, bed, crops, and crop assignment tables here, right? So now we are going to create it. The first step is in our OnConfiguring method. This is provided by our DbContext, but we are going to override it because we are going to use our own DB configuration. So in my case, I have DB in my localhost. Okay, then this is the database name that I'm going to use. Username is SA. In my case, I use the password is this. Okay, so the command to create, the first step that we're going to do is to create the DB schema. So as I showed you earlier, I don't have the tables here yet, right? So we are going to create that by running CLI command like .NET EF stands for Entity Framework, then migrations. Let me define. I think we need to go inside first. Test EF. Okay, so the model is there. So the command is first we need to create the migration code. Migration code first. Then after we create the migration code, we will use those code to create the DB schema. Okay, so the command to do that is .NET EF migration. .NET EF migrations add, let's say, let my first migration or DB migration. Okay, so as you can see, it will generate a folder called migrations. I think we was found in assembly test EF. Ensure that the correct assembly and the type is neither abstract nor let me check my base code. I think we got some issue here. Sorry about that. Namespace. CLS. Let me run again. .NET EF migration. Let me check my that copy. Never mind. I think there's a conflict with our project because I use EF. Never mind, I will create a new one. Quit. We create a new project. New console. My entity test framework. Okay, first we create a class. Let's call it model. Okay, then we paste our code. We need this object. Namespace. Okay. So as you can see, there is some red items here. This is because we need to add the dependency. So we need to add the entity framework dependency. Okay, so manage. First we need the entity framework entity framework core. Okay, accept. Okay, what else? Then SQL Server we also need. So entity framework SQL Server, this one. All right. Then we also need the design. Entity framework core design. This one. All right. Okay. Then cd project my entity framework test. Okay, okay. Let's run the command. Let's generate the migrations code. MyEntityFrameworkTest. It's the same error actually. Let's try to rebuild. Maybe we need to rebuild first. Okay, there. See, sorry about that. So what we need actually is we just need to rebuild. Okay, so now as you can see, the migrations folder is created. These are the C# codes that are generated by our framework. See, these are the codes that we need to create the DB schema. So now that we have these C# codes, the next step to do is to use this code to create our DB schema. So how to do that? The command is .NET ef database update. Okay, so let me check first our DB if the tables are existing or not. So as you can see, it's not yet there, right? So now we're going to run the CLI command .NET ef database update. Okay, alright, so let's check our database. Let's refresh. There, see, these are the entity that we have in our code. The entity basically we created tables based on that entity. As you can see, the columns here, this is exactly the fields in our entities. Crops, columns, CropAssignment. Okay, so it's very simple, right? We use the framework to create the DB schema. So now that we have the DB schema, what we're going to do next is we're going to insert some data. So how are we going to do that? We can use our code again using the entity framework. It's very simple. Okay, so now the DB schema is created. Let's go to our main and let's create some let's populate our tables. So this is the I have some code snippet here to insert some data. Alright, okay, let me copy here. So we don't need the read yet. Okay, so let me explain you this code. First, you can even remove this console. Data has been inserted. Okay, so first we need to create an instance of our DbContext. As you can see, this is our model, right? GardenContext. We extend the DbContext, right? Why we did that? Because we want to use the entity framework. The entity framework provide us this DbContext. Excuse me. So we can use the DbSet. We can create some DbSet methods to enable us to perform some CRUD operations using that framework. So as you can see, this DbSet methods, this is these objects or entities are they have equivalent DB tables, right? The one we just created just now using the migration stuff or migration tool. Okay, we created the DB schema. So now we have these tables already. We're going to insert some data. Okay, so we are first step is we're going to create an instance of this class. This is actually a DbContext, which is provided by the framework. So we're going to use this DbContext. So here we create an instance GardenContext, which extend the DbContext, right? So once we create the instance of that, we can create we have an object already to interact with the database. So we pass the DbContext object in our instance in our method, create simple data here. Then using this object db, we are now we can insert data now. So the command to do that is first we use the object, the DbContext object, then access the entity that we want to manipulate. In this case is garden. Then add a record. This is the record that we're going to add. Garden, right? So we have garden table in our DB, right? So we in our garden table we have a field called name. Let's double check garden. So as you can see here, we have two columns, garden ID and name. So in our code, we are going to insert data in a name. It seems the ID is auto generated. Anyway, so basically we're going to add some data in our name column, which is my first garden. Okay, so after adding that, to persist it permanently in our DB, we have to call the API save changes API. This save changes API is provided by the framework, which is the entity framework. Okay, so same with other tables. We have bed, we do the same, we add some record, bed record. Okay, then after that, after adding, we persist it using the save changes method, which is provided by the framework. So we do the same for other tables like crops and crop assignments. Okay, so after adding this table, so let's run this program. So after running this program, we expect some data here. So now as you can see, it's empty, right? All tables are empty here. Okay, let's close them. Then let's run our program to populate the tables. Run. Whoops, sorry about that, we got some error here. I think it's some kind of compilation error. We have some. Okay, let's build to make it sure. Rebuild. Alright, so now should be okay already. Let's run again. There we go, data has been inserted. This is the one. Okay, so let's check our database and see the data. First we refresh. Alright, so let's check beds. Okay, as you can see, there's 3 records for in beds table, then 5 records in crop assignment, 4 records in crops, and 1 record in gardens. See, it's very straightforward, right? So where is it? Let's go back to our code. So this is how to insert data in our DB. So basically the entity framework provide us this API save changes method. to persist the record or the data that we add. So of course, before we call this, we have to make sure to add first the data. And how to add that? We have to access the DbContext object and call the table or the entity that we want to manipulate, then call add method and add our data. Okay, so that's all. So next, we want to read this data. Okay, let me show you the code. For read is very simple. It's the same concept. We just need to use the same object, the DbContext object. So as you can see here in our read method, we have here DbContext, right? So cross so now crop assignment as wait, let me check again. Crop assignment as let me check. We got some error here. No tracking. Okay, I remove it. As okay, let me check my code again. Sorry about this. I think I missed something here. As no tracking. Alright. Okay, let's build. Wait. So basically, as I said a while ago, we need to use the DbContext object which is provided by the entity framework. So once we get the instance of that, we use the instance to call the API. So in this case, we put the instance in DB variable. So this is then use that instance to call the API. So here we want to read the crop assignment table, right? So DB, then the name of the table, then we put some conditions here, right? To include yeah. So where, this is the condition, where condition, then include is like we're joining the crop assignments to bed and garden and crop. So this is the order also. So in the end, it will turn a list. Okay, then this list, we put it in the assignment variable, then we iterate then we display the data from those tables. So from crop, we display the name, from bed we display the number, and the garden name from the garden table. Okay, so let's run this one and see the output. Alright, so this is the output of our program, growing beans. So this data all came from our DB. So this is where we display it, right? Growing beans, pumpkin salad. So this beans pumpkin salad, we got it from crop. See, bean pumpkin salad. Okay, based on this condition. Alright, so I think that's all, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. See you again soon. Bye bye.